Okay, so you list the property, you're very flexible on showings, you're doing all the right things in that department. What about the price? What's our seller regret that we're facing these days?
The market doesn't really give you a chance for a first impression. It's always that first impression,
right,
that first price that sets the stage and gets people into your property.
So it's very important to consider, even if it's on day one. Maybe you had 2 showings, maybe you've had 1 showing, but if the offer is the right offer for you, you kind of have to put everything else in the background and just say, let's move forward with this offer. Welcome to the TNT Real Estate Podcast, where we spark conversations that set you up for real estate success. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Tanya, and each week we bring you expert tips on navigating Northern Ontario's real estate market. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you thrive. Welcome back to the TNT Real Estate Podcast. I'm Tanya, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tyler. Tyler, I'm feeling really rusty.
Are you?
I haven't been in this seat in so long, it feels like.
Yeah. I mean, you took a week off, so you deserve to feel a little bit rusty.
It feels like forever.
Do you want to tell everybody where you were? Because they might get jealous.
Yes. I was in the land of no snow, Victoria, British Columbia. It was lovely. It was spring. The daffodils were blooming. The tulips were out. Yeah, it was a very nice break. And then I came back to business as usual, 10-foot high snowbanks.
Frozen snowbanks.
Yeah, but it was good. It was good to kind of get away. And we have a property out there, so we were doing a little bit of work and some maintenance. The property ran out of oil, so that was fun.
Yep.
Lots of fun things when you have a property all the way across the country. Yeah. But we're looking forward to changing it up to a more fuel efficient, or not fuel efficient, not even fuel, but electric.
Right. They have some crazy grants out there, right?
They do. They have some really good incentives for clean energy, Clean BC. So our tenants qualified for a little bit of grants. So we're going to be doing that as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. We should forward like this little clip to the government, the provincial government, and we'll send it over to Doug Ford and be like, hey.
You should do this. Well, did you know one thing, that heating oil, did you know that it's diesel fuel?
I knew it was semi-diesel fuel.
It is. It's just colored diesel.
Yeah. Because I knew there was one time I was selling a property outside of the city that ran on an oil furnace, and they ran out of fuel, and the guy just went to the gas station. And I don't think that's like...
No, that's what we did.
Oh, yeah?
It's literally diesel fuel.
Okay.
It's just you pay more for it because it's not colored. So it's normal heating oil is not subject to the same tax as
okay.
diesel.
Because I was like, whoa, like maybe you could use diesel when you're like in a pinch, but it's literally the
same thing.
Wow.
It's just you pay more for it at the pump.
Crazy. So, I did not know that.
Yeah, because we're having the conversion in a couple of weeks. Hopefully once the electrical is done, the heat pumps will go in. And so we didn't want to, not only pay for it, but also kind of waste the heating oil, getting it delivered. Because they have a minimum, I think it's like 400 liters or something, delivery. So that's what we did. We went to the gas station.
Yeah, that's cool. I did not know that. Learned something new.
And the heat now it's warm in BC, so it's like 15 degrees there, so the girls will be fine. Yeah, it should last us.
Good.
Yeah.
What are we talking? Yeah,
that's my story. Right. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about seller regrets. So what is important when people list a home, and some of the mistakes that sellers might make, especially in those first few weeks.
Mm-hmm. And seller regrets happen for a multitude of reasons, but these, I guess, are specifically what we're talking about today is like what happens after you list the property. You can't go back. It's on the market. What are those feelings that some sellers feel when that happens? Yeah. It's not necessarily, maybe I shouldn't have sold my house because I have sentimental value in 10 years time and I wanted to see my grandkids in the house, whatever. This is like actually on the market. You list your house 2 days later. What are you feeling?
Yeah, so the first week really is what's important, and the first week sets the tone for everything.
Right.
So let's start with that first week on the market. Most sellers will underestimate what that first 7 days really means.
Right.
And that's when their home really gets the most attention. So one of the biggest, I think, challenges is balancing schedules with showings is one of the things that can be an issue with home sellers. And some of the regret can come from not being super flexible, right?
Right. yeah, like you were saying, like week one sets the tone, and everything after week one is a reaction. And we say, like, especially throughout COVID when there was multiple showings and like we would have off days full of showings, I would often offer one of my Airbnb properties to my clients. And it was like a nice, obviously it was like a upgraded sales package, right? But I would just move them out of the house for 3 days. We'd hold offers for 3 days and fill up the days with the showings. And then we'd meet back and discuss our 10 to 20 offers. Now, this market is obviously a little bit different. We can't guarantee that we're going to have 40 showings every single day, but it is extremely important for those clients to be flexible. And, you know, it's like, oh, can we have dinner at 6 o'clock every day? And I got to cook dinner. So we really can't have showings from like 5 to 7. And it's like, yeah, but that's like the prime time. That's when people get off work. They're delaying their dinner to go come see some properties. They're serious. So it's very important that, you stay flexible.
That first week, I think it's important. One thing is great. If you can actually move out of your house for a week or two, fantastic. Then we can just allow showings anytime. But like you said, we're probably not going to get 10 or more showings in a day. So your whole day isn't going to be occupied by showings, but it is going to be disruptive. And when you think of it in terms of a buyer's perspective, buyers, when they make the decision they want to go see a house, they want to go see it that day or as soon as possible, right after work, maybe the next day. So being flexible with showing times is very, very important. So just be prepared. Some of our agents also, they've talked about giving their agents like gift cards to go out for dinner and whatnot. So that, just expect that you're probably not going to be able to cook dinner at the same time. We can certainly try to be flexible, especially with little kids and families, like nap time. That's very important, right? To keep somewhat of a routine, but just expect your routine is going to be disrupted during especially that first week, maybe even stretch it to 2 weeks. Just be prepared to be ready to go within maybe an hour or two's notice, I would say.
And it builds momentum. So if you have like a very strong week, chances are the next week might be, second showings or pre-offer inspections. So it's especially with the emotional buyers and the people that have odd schedules, like they want to get in quickly. Sometimes especially in Sudbury, we got a lot of shift workers. If they can't, if they're working 7 to 7, either day shift or night shift, they have a very refined schedule on, we can only see it at this time. Like I have a client that books 5 days in advance because that's when they know that they can see the property. They can't do it while they're working their shift, which is sometimes a con, but it's just what to expect, especially in this market.
Yeah. And if you are a seller and you do work shift work, maybe plan it so that you're on your days off when you first launch. That first launch is so important to keep that momentum going and to not deter people from coming to the property. You want to make it easy, you want to make it accessible, and you want to make it open to agents and their clients to come through. Right.
Okay. So you list the property. You're very flexible on showings. You're doing all the right things in that department. What about the price? What's our seller regret that we're facing these days?
Overpricing. Overpricing is probably the biggest regret. And, I know some people say they want to leave some room for negotiations. And, maybe there's a certain argument to be made to have a few $1,000s so that you got some space there to come down a little bit. Be flexible in your price for sure. But to shoot for the moon on pricing without any evidence behind that price, it's going to show in your number of showings. It's going to show with buyer interest. Maybe your realtor does a fantastic job with photos and advertising, so you get some people through the door. But then once they come in, they realize, oh, wait a minute, this isn't quite what I thought it was going to be for this price. Listen to your agent. And overpricing is probably, I think, one of our biggest seller regrets. Have you seen this before in your practice? Yeah.
So, being overpriced is not necessarily about testing the market. For some people, it's like, the whole negotiation room, but it sets you on the back foot, especially when the listings are getting a little bit more aggressive out there. And it's a little bit harder to sell your house than it was, 2 years ago. So it's very important to be aggressive with pricing. And we hear it all the time since the beginning of our careers. Oh, let's list it high. Let's test the market. Let's see, see
what happens.
Somebody might bite. So you never know. Somebody might bite. It's like, yeah, but especially these days, consumers and buyers are extremely knowledgeable on what's going on in the market. There's all sorts of apps. There's data that they can follow. And as, realtors, we aren't like the purveyors of information anymore. We just, we're here to help dissect that information for our clients. And I think it's very important to be priced correctly. I mean, a lot of people are still doing like the underpricing to get multiple offers. That's, it's a strategy. Sometimes it backfires, sometimes it doesn't, but overpricing for the sake of overpricing just to test the market, I think is a huge mistake, especially in the first couple of weeks.
Yeah. The market doesn't really give you a chance for a first impression. It's always that first impression,
right,
that first price that sets the stage and gets people into your property. And later on, when you realize and your agent has told you, look, we're not getting showings, it's probably because of the price. They show you the comparable sales in your neighborhood that have sold a little bit less or have been priced less strategically and gotten more showings. Then what do is you consider that price reduction.
Right.
And it weakens, like you said, it sets the stage, puts you kind of on the back foot. If you're sort of coming down in price, you're probably going to lose a little bit more money in terms of negotiating rather than pricing it right and getting a lot of interest.
And I mean, the second conversation to that, especially when you're having the pricing conversation with a client, is, oh, you know what, like we'll just drop it later. But they, as a seller, they're like, oh, people are going to look at that and see an opportunity. But when a buyer sees a massive price decrease, they say, oh, what's the issue? Like, what's going on with that house? What's wrong with the house? Are they hiding something?
Yeah.
And so it's like, obviously a psychological, mind frame that, or mindset that, buyers have and sellers have, rightfully so. But it's we don't want that, especially if you're trying to list your house and sell it for a reasonable price. We do not want anybody to come through and look and realize there's been a big price decrease and say, what's going on with this?
What's the problem? Yeah. And then your agent is really trying to get ahead of explaining, like, there isn't anything wrong with the property. It was just, we were just maybe a little too ambitious on pricing, right? And we have to sort of drill that narrative into the buyers and their agents' minds. Okay, so we've been on the market for a week. We did a really good launch. We were very flexible with our showing schedule. We hit the market with the right price. What are some other things that could go wrong?
I would say that it's probably the prep of the property, which is like the next biggest thing that we can, have some regrets on. So, I mean, as professional realtors, we walk in when we do our initial assessment or consultation with the owners. We go through and I know we both do this because we're very similar, but we give them, a little bit of a list of things to do. So I walk in with my buyer eyes on and not necessarily how to look at the property and pitch the property the right way. I say, okay, what are the little things that a buyer is going to walk into this house and see, okay, this is a little bit of an issue. Okay, we're going to have to paint this and we're going to have to replace this. And so I like to, get ahead of that, give them a little bit of a to-do list, make it, a week or 2 weeks of homework before we start doing pictures and videos. So it just looks perfect. There's no, dents in the walls. I know all about that because I got kids. And just like, a fresh coat of paint sometimes in the rooms, can work wonders. And it's just like the little maintenance that needs to be done. It's nothing crazy. We're not going to take down a wall. We're not going to redo a kitchen unless we have that budget, obviously. But typically it's just like small little things that, I mean, when a seller sees that, like when I walk through my own house and I see a dent in the wall, it's like, okay, it's just like a little dent in the wall. I can fix it later.
You forget about it and you don't fix it later.
You do not. Yeah, exactly. But when a buyer walks through that and say, okay, that's, I got to hire a professional to do some drywall and then we got to paint it. And then like all of a sudden this, $30 to $50 job becomes a $5,000 to $1,000 job and your price just keeps getting reduced.
Yeah. If you're a busy seller and your agent's telling you, okay, you should probably do this, and the other thing, and you start to get overwhelmed with that list, I would encourage you to kind of think and realize that a buyer also is going to get a little overwhelmed with that list, right? So if there's little dings and little scuffs and things to fix up, and I understand people have very busy lives and little kids, and it can be overwhelming. But many buyers are in that same position. So maybe we, the agents, can help you with referring you to people to do those little fix-ups so that when the property hits the market, it is, I don't want to say staged, but it is staged so that it shows beautifully, it's clean, it's clutter-free, and you've done the prep so that people aren't making that mental checklist as they walk through the house on all the things that they're going to have to do when they get there. Another thing, sorry, I was going to say, we were talking about showings and being flexible and all that sort of stress that comes with showings, but preparation could also be preparing for that sort of chaos that you're going to have in the first 2 weeks.
Right.
So I know you're a very big fan of like meal prepping, making plans for food and that type of thing. So rather than scrambling at the last minute, you're prepared on how you're going to deal with the showings and being out of your house with your family.
Yeah. And it's all about being prepared, obviously. Like you could meal prep, obviously. If you have family around or if you have friends around, book a dinner, be like, okay, I'm coming to your house. I'll pick up dinner on the way, but I'm coming to use your house for 2 hours so I can show my house.
Yeah. Hopefully you've got a good neighbor or somebody you can like take the kids there and they can hang out for an afternoon or something. Yeah. If you've got a dog, getting the dog out of the house is another issue that can be a bit challenging. Yeah. Maybe you look at sort of like a doggy daycare or something, or a friend or family member to take the dog for the first little while. Yeah.
This is your opportunity to need your family, need your friends, and be selfish about that. Yeah. Be like, I need help. By the way, when we're done this, you're going to have to help me move too. But
I'm sure you'll pay them back in some ways.
Right.
Okay. So the next sort of, I would say, regret that some of the sellers can make is emotional, right? I mean, selling your home is emotional. You've lived there for X number of years. Maybe it was your first home. Maybe it was your last home. Right. It can be an emotional process. And this can be where sort of the financial aspect gets a little bit lost with the emotions. I would say like this whole process is like built on emotion. So like you price your house. Sometimes there's emotion built into the price with sentimental value. When you're doing the prep and, these things were created by my children or, whatever, like this dent is sentimental because this is when my child threw my remote and whatever it was. Like, it's like this whole process is an emotional process. So we're not really taking anything away from, it's totally fine to have emotions, but when they're, overflowed into all of these decisions and you're kind of handcuffing yourself to some of the results that you can get, if it wasn't emotional, that's when, we have not an issue with it, but that's when we kind of have to realize and go internal and kind of check ourselves a little bit. Yeah. Sometimes I find that sellers get a little apprehensive if let's say an offer comes in right away. Like the first 2 days, someone's really keen, they bring you what the agent deems a good offer or a really good offer and brings it to the table. And the seller kind of feels like, whoa, wait a minute. I wasn't ready for this. Or maybe we could get more. I'm not sure. Do we wait? Getting sort of emotional about that process can sometimes, if you hesitate or you say, we're just not ready yet, and you ignore that first offer, that can be one of the biggest regrets I find in terms of getting a good price for your property. If a seller maybe just wants to wait a little longer and is just taken aback by that process. That's why, preparation also is very, very important.
Yeah. And I would kind of continue on to that because like there's a saying in the business where like the first offer is the best offer. Those are the people that are excited to buy a house. They're excited to see your house, which is why they book the first showing. They immediately tell their agent, this is our house. Here's our offer. It's usually strong. And so we always try to encourage somebody to work with the first offer. The second one could come and it could be way lower, or it could be, more full of conditions. So it's very important to kind of consider, even if it's on day one, maybe you had 2 showings, maybe you've had 1 showing, but if the offer is the right offer for you, you kind of have to put everything else in the background and just say, let's move forward with this offer. And it's hard to do, especially, you've done all this work. You've done 2 weeks of prep. You've priced it correctly. You've done these things and an offer comes in. It's like,
seems too fast.
What else is out there? We haven't even had an open house yet. Yes, but these guys have been looking. They probably have seen everything else on the market already, and they have decided on your house.
Yeah. And that's where you can get a really good price, really good terms, and some of the best offers when it comes right away and you deal with it immediately.
Right.
Okay, so your house is listed correctly. You've been on the market for a week. You're very flexible with your showing schedule. I forget what else I was going to fucking say. I'm going to start over again.
Done all the prep.
Okay. Okay, so you've listed your home. You've priced your property accurately. You've done the prep. You've got it ready. It shines spectacularly. You are very flexible with your showings. What happens in that first week?
You need to listen. You got to open your ears now. You've been on the market for 1 week, and what happens next is you need to start listening. Maybe not as a consumer, but as an agent, you got to start listening, and then you have to start telling your own client what's happening. And so what matters is the data. How many showings do you have? What's the feedback? How much activity? How many, like, you can go on the back end of every website that you're on basically and see, how many people have clicked, how many people have hearted it, how many people have looked through the pictures. How many people are looking at it. You need to compare that to, you could probably compare it to all the other listings that are on the market, kind of comparable to yours. But even, if you've had a listing 3 weeks ago that had 10,000 views and now you're at 1,000 views with this, what is going on? And typically it's, it could definitely be a couple things, but it could be market. It could be the time of the year. It could be your marketing is just not hitting. You have to redo marketing. You have to put something else into it. But it could also be price, and you have to be flexible with price.
So do you count on your agent to let you know kind of what's happening?
You should, I would say, trust but verify. Most consumers would have that capability to see, and maybe go through realtor.ca or look on the Sutton page where people would go, or our own personal pages, and see, okay, how does it show up to the public? Maybe the pictures need to be reordered. Not that it's like a huge issue, but if there's a couple great photos that aren't being captured, and most websites only show like 10 photos, sometimes it's just about little tweaks. If you have a beautiful sunroom or a beautiful pool and it's not being showcased the way it should, that's an issue. Yeah. And so there's a couple little tweaks, but really you have to look at how many showings you're having compared to other listings that are kind of in the neighborhood. And if it's lower, then there's a reason why those people aren't also seeing yours.
Yeah. Your agent really should be giving you the feedback. How many showings have you had? How does it compare to other properties? How many on the back end we can see on realtor.ca, how many people have liked it? How many people have got directions to the property as well?
Right.
Maybe people are getting directions to the property. They're thinking about it, but then they go and have a little look and they're like, you know what? I'm not too sure about that neighbor or whatnot. Listen to the feedback, listen to what people are saying. So let's say, for example, there's a showing and your agent gets the feedback from the showing agent that says, maybe it's something about the neighbor, maybe it's something about pricing, maybe it's curb appeal, maybe there's something that can be fixed.
Right.
That's when you really want to listen and see if it's something that you can rectify to then rectify it. Because we see with our realtor.ca, especially those stats, all the viewings in that first week, there's like hundreds, right? Every day there's hundreds of viewings, and then it slowly or pretty quickly actually tapers off.
Right.
And then you're at maybe a dozen or so viewings each day on realtor.ca portal. So that's what's really important, is to see how many people are liking it. How is the social media doing as well? Right. I know we always do like a sort of a weekly or bi-weekly sort of wrap up with our seller clients, give them the information. How is the reel doing, the carousel, the agent feedback. So it's really important in that first week to listen to the market, to listen to the feedback, and then take the necessary steps that your agent's recommending.
Right. Okay, let's do some rapid fire now.
Okay.
We're gonna go back and forth on this?
Yes.
Okay, so this is like a seller question when we're listing the property. We don't want showings during dinners.
Ooh, well then you don't want people who are looking after work. You don't want professionals to buy your home.
Right.
That's a little tough, I know, but you got to do something for dinner.
Right.
Go to McDonald's. Okay, can we just do weekends?
We can, but you're going to cut your buyer pool in half. Because people look nights and weekends.
Yeah, when they're not working.
Right. For a single family, for just a regular house and not multifamily, can we have 24 hours notice for showings?
You can, but at a huge cost.
Right.
Huge cost. You could miss that perfect buyer.
Right.
Be ready in 2 hours. How about 2?
2 hours, yeah.
2 hours.
Why do you need 24? Let's just do 2.
Let's just do 2.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. How about, can we launch it like it's new again? So let's say, for example, you decide to revamp your pricing or revamp your something. Can we launch it like it's brand new?
No, because the internet remembers everything. And as soon as it's launched the first time, they will see it and then they will look at it and be like, I thought I saw that house for $100,000 more last week.
Buyers remember everything.
Right.
Yeah, the internet remembers everything.
Yeah, no, you can't.
If you take one thing from this podcast, it's to know that most seller regret is 100% avoidable.
And it comes down to the strategy in the first week, longer than the first week, but the first week is really the most important. And then long-term strategy is another thing that we can talk about.
Yeah. Pricing, prep, flexibility, all those factors are super important.
You can go back to your routine as soon as your house sells.
Yes. Once your house sells, life will go back to normal. But for that first week, you're going to be in sales mode.
Yep. If you got any value from this podcast, we would appreciate if you shared it with all your friends, shared it on social media, give us a like or subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.